Get this show on the road. Okay, welcome everybody. Glad to see some folks in attendance tonight. This is the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting, September 28, 2021 at 6 p.m. Just roll call, myself, Mike Ergo, first selectman here, Bob Carlson, selectman, Nita Kincaid, selectwoman, Christine Diaz, admin finance for the town, and Cheryl Lynch, admin for the selectman's office. We do have a pretty full agenda here, a lot of follow-up items from previous meetings on this agenda, but we have a robust agenda. So we do have public comments coming up on agenda item number 3. So once we get to that, we'd ask that all public comments are kept to 2 minutes in respect for everyone's time. And so we can get to everything on our agenda in a reasonable fashion. The second item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags back there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we'll start out with agenda item number 3, public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. If you do want to make a public comment on an agenda or non-agenda item, if you could just come up to the microphone. The first person, if there's anyone up there, can just turn it on and leave it on. Speak into the microphone. For those who are online, they'll be able to hear you. Yes, sir. You may. Go. Yep, go ahead.
Carl Johnston, 8B Ruderman Road. I'd like to address you guys on the all the townspeople have voted all the selectmen into position to listen to our comments and our items for you guys to use and help with for your decisions. I'd like to request you guys, one of you guys or somebody move that we be able to discuss some of these items. There are 12 or 15 items tonight to work on, just because at the end of the evening, it's hard to keep track of what you guys talked to, what you didn't talk to, and fit all that into 2 minutes. And at the same time, if you've already voted on it as a yes or no, our comments don't do any good anyways. The other thing is, I would hope that being so close to the election, that you guys would not rush through anything and push anything through, try and think through what you're going to vote on. Thank you very much.
Hello. Hi, Steve Sadowski from 229 Denison Hill. A question asked the selectmen back in June of 2022, the selectmen meeting. You had delegated the tax assessor to look into tax abatements for first responders. I was just wondering where we were on that. If, I don't expect to have an answer tonight, but in an upcoming meeting, maybe something.
Yeah, we have a lot of items that we've worked on, hence some of these agendas that are pretty full. That is something that I think we probably were going to take up in the next meeting or two. Okay. We have some information on it.
Just was curious where we were with that.
Yep.
Just
try it. Yep. But thank you for bringing it back up, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a online hand.
Joe Gross, go ahead and unmute.
Yes, I have just one quick question tonight. The roads in Cedar Ridge, I don't believe we'll get them in September. Will they be done in October?
Joe, can you repeat that?
Did you hear me?
Can you repeat? Yeah, can you repeat the question? We didn't hear you.
I was just wondering, the roads in Cedar Ridge, I don't believe we'll get them done in September. Will we be working on them in October?
They are supposed to be getting done in October, yes.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Okay, phone number ending in 3754. Go ahead and unmute.
Thank you. This is Sean. I just had a question or a comment about the rescue funds use. I know we approved the per diem, daytime per diem firefighter. Are the selectmen going to create a list to be voted on at one time, or it just seems that if we do this piecemeal, that we may very well run out of funds. We may run out of funds for something else that comes along. Is it possible to create a list that adds up to the remaining funds and approve a list at one time versus piecemeal? And the other question I had is, will you be talking about changes to the pension, town employees' pensions tonight?
Thank you for the comment. We did create a list. The selectmen reviewed it. We didn't approve it at once, as we've been trying to be flexible with the needs as they come up. And we've been going through a normal approval process for those funds through our Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance, and then town meeting if it's over 20,000, to your first question. So
Yeah.
a general list exists, but there hasn't been like an approval of this is how we're going to spend all of the money. It's more of a general discussion of thoughts of how the money might be spent. That answers that question. And then the governmental volume submitter money purchase plan, or as some refer to it as a pension, is on the agenda to be discussed tonight.
In that case, I just wanted to add that for the first selectman and the admin finance officer to bring that concept forward, even to bring it forward, let alone vote on it, is really a conflict of interest. And I know it's been mentioned that you would exempt yourself from it, but there's no guarantee on that occurring, that being allowed to occur by the pension fund administrator. So I just think it's something that should not be discussed, brought forward by the first selectman and the admin finance officer, because it is a direct financial conflict of interest, and hope that the selectmen would vote against any measure to make any changes at this time. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. And again, thanks for being here tonight. We have to add one agenda item. Thank you, Bob. We look to add agenda item 10C, business development, under the rescue plan. Is there a motion to add that agenda item? Motion by Bob, second by Nita. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. First on the agenda is keeping North Stonington affordable, the sale of 119 Clarks Falls Road. To refresh everyone's memory, which it has been a while, we had approved back quite a long time ago now to accept that property from the church at town meeting, and then subsequently approved the sale of the property to KNSA, with the deed having been a little complicated because it had been used as a school. It did have to go through a little bit of a process to get that cleared up, but we are happy to say that the sale did finally go through, and that they are looking to host an event, which I know the selectmen are aware of because their president did email us to invite us to attend. And I think they wanted to comment on the upcoming event and just talk to us about their plans. So I just wanted to update the public and the selectmen that the sale did go through. And just as a reminder, it was basically, it's going to be used for affordable housing. Has to be as part of the sale, as we had already decided and discussed back in 2018. And we will, depending on what they make on the property, this town will have funding that would come through that should be, needs to be used for education purposes. If we do have any funds that come through in the sale of it, it depends on how they make out with the market being what it is and what they actually make. So again, this was all discussed and voted on many couple of years ago now, but it finally came to fruition. So I don't know, Mary Ann, if you were, did you want to speak on? Okay, wonderful. So Betty would like to speak to us about the event. Betty, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Betty Russ, 321 Wyosset Road, speaking on behalf of PINSA. I was asked to submit a list of ways in which the town might want to help to underwrite this event. As with anything of this nature, there's tasks and there's also costs. I don't know if you want me to go through. There's 8 items here. 5 of them involve some money and 3 of them involve work. If you could help, as I've prefaced this, if you can help us in any or all ways, that would be greatly appreciated. Do you want to go through these or do you want to look them over?
I don't think we need to go through them
Okay.
necessarily. I think it's around $250 worth of costs that you're asking about. The town, again, has sold the property, so
Yes.
we did sell it. We are involved in the transaction. I don't know if the selectmen want to participate in basically providing some level of funding for the items that they've asked for. I think normally, it's not something we probably would do, but because we actually are the ones who did sell this property, we're going to go. Maybe it's something we want to consider. I don't know if the selectmen have comments on it.
Betty, what's the work involved?
The one item I really would like help with is digging the hole to put, we have a beautiful sign made up. It'll be on the property at the schoolhouse. And I'll buy a post and I'll put the sign on the post, but I need someone to dig the hole out at the schoolhouse. I can't find anyone who wants to dig a hole in Stonington. So that's why I'm turning to you. Maybe someone in the town crew could help with that. The other things, we're just making some copies and putting a press release in local papers. We didn't know if the press release coming from the Board of Selectmen maybe have more clout and they wouldn't be so prone to edit it down like they typically do. So, I mean, these are all listed here. So those are things we really could use some help with. I should clarify.
Can you just speak into the microphone?
I'm
That
sorry.
way the people online can hear.
Sure. The event is being held at Hewitt Farm at the Pavilion simply because of parking issues. So the event will not take place at 119 Parks Falls. That's the need for this sign. And it will announce that it's a future home for affordable housing done by Kinsa. So we feel the sign should be there to proclaim that to anyone going by that. And we'll provide a map from our event site out to the schoolhouse so people can go and view it. So those are the things we're looking to do. We're going to invite the general public, obviously, local elected officials, area, regional people. We'll have some number of displays, and we'll also have some refreshments. It's a 2-hour event. Do you have any questions? I did have a question myself. There's a $55 administrative fee I was told about, and I wasn't clear if that was something the town charges or the insurance company charges.
I have no idea what that's about.
I don't either. Okay,
Okay.
but I was told that that was part of the issue. That answer your question, Bob?
Yeah, so Betty, I don't want you to take my remarks as negative because I'm pro
I know you
KNSA.
are, yeah.
Okay, so, but we'd be setting a precedent here. This is a building we've sold and you're a nonprofit.
Right.
And we have many nonprofits within the town and you have a line item in our budget, which I think the town generously gave $875 to KNSA, and I know you run fundraisers.
Mhm.
I'm afraid that if we allocate additional funding, that opens the door and we set a precedent for any nonprofit to come in and ask for additional funding that's not budgeted. The budget was passed and the taxpayer assumed that we're giving you $875.
Correct.
With that said, as far as the work goes, is that hole manually dug or do you need a machine? What are we talking about? Is it just a pick and a shovel or is it a backhoe that we need?
You don't need a backhoe. It's just a one post.
So basically you're looking just for manual labor.
Yeah, typically it would be like installing a mailbox.
Right. So I would be I can't be at the event. I'm going to be out of town that weekend, but I'll be more than happy to help you out manually prior to that. But I cannot honestly say that I can before giving you any additional funding, because then we'd have to give anyone additional funding that would come to a meeting that would be a nonprofit.
I
So
understand and appreciate your rationale there completely. I was asked to prepare this list and submit it. And the only thought I had was that it is such a unique situation where we're getting this from the town. I didn't know if that made a difference, but I see what you're saying as well. So
Mhm.
that's why I put this together.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Nita, do you have any comment? I have no comment either. Well, I guess I have a comment. I agree with what Bob's saying. It is kind of a unique situation. So I don't think the town should fund any of this. I'm also happy to help dig a hole. And I'm also happy to, donate funds to what you need. So we can talk after the meeting, but I don't think the town should be involved in it. Okay. But we appreciate it. And I'm really excited about seeing some affordable housing happen. Obviously, we have other housing in town, but it's nice to see new life being breathed into this property. So I'm pretty thrilled about it. I can't wait.
So Betty,
feel like-
I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm on Shark Tank and I just got shot down. I was like, oh, well.
So reach out to me also, please, between now and the event.
Yes.
And whether it means cutting grass or digging a hole, I'll be glad to help you out if I can.
Yeah, I think that the challenging thing is, and I think you're going to hear a lot about this year for any of appropriations, but our budgets were literally gutted last year and there is no extra anywhere. I think we're going to struggle on some line items possibly to even have enough money because of what happened in the budget process. So I think that's the challenge we're up against. And anything else?
Well, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so number 5, additional appropriation. We have a request. Donnie, the highway foreman, is here to talk about the speed hump updates, but he did bring to my attention, this is no surprise because we cut this out of the budget, but it is still a need and maybe a more pressing need than we even thought. And that is the truck replacement for truck 42. Donnie's prepared a presentation and what I have before you is the possibility for an additional appropriation for that truck. So Donnie, you got a couple minutes. Why don't you show us what you have?
So the current status of the truck, it's got 200,000 miles.
Can you talk into the microphone a little better? Sorry, you can pick it right up.
How about now?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so it has 200,100 miles on it. It has integrity issues with the frame due to rot, front end integrity issues with rot, cab integrity issues with rot. The mount cabs and the doors have rotted away. And the exhaust manifolds now, we just discovered in April, are rotted completely out and actually have holes in them. The truck is 15 years old. These are some of the pictures of the cab rot. That stairs you see there, the step is actually welded to the frame because that all completely rotted away, and the mechanic had to make that himself. And you can see where the original frame rot was, and that's the new piece he welded on there. Again, more rot. This is up towards the front of the cab where the exhaust is leaking into it. Again, more rot throughout that driver's side. This is where the cab mounts are rotted away, actually from the frame itself. And this is the big problem. The exhaust manifolds have those, you see 4 holes in it, which have completely rotted through the exhaust manifolds. And we can't get those off of there because they're rotted right to, can't take the bolts out. It'd be too much work. So I made some phone calls and asked around just about what the prices would be. Everybody who's actually tried to buy a vehicle this year knows that the shortage with vehicles is pushing a lot of these deliveries back. Excuse me. So this was Columbia Ford. The plow package was $6,425. So the total cost was $47,207. And the estimated delivery on that vehicle would be in January 2022. The next one was actually, this is a dealer that's on the state bid, and he has a truck on site there. It's green. Apparently Ford's only making a emerald green truck right now. He doesn't know why, but he has one on the ground there. And if this one was a lot more money being on the state bid, I don't know why, but they're talking October 2021 if we decided to do this. So this is showing you what we did on capital improvements. Now, we've been trying to get this truck since 2018, and it's been constantly cut off the budget. And I believe next year we're supposed to replace truck 1. So if we went with appropriations for 42, we would eliminate truck 1 in appropriations for, in the budget for next year on the capital improvement. This is just, I track all the repairs on the vehicles. I believe that's what that was. So this is the repair cost on all the vehicles that the town owns. I track them, and you'll see the ones that have higher numbers, and those are usually the ones with the older, that are older vehicles. We don't want it to end up like this, because it will. I mean, the frame is rotted to the point where it could break right in half. And I'm not going to use it this winter if we still have it, because of the holes in the truck and the rot. Just too dangerous. Matter of fact, if we send it to auction, it'd have to go to auction as parts.
Thank you, Donnie.
Any questions?
I'm sure we have some questions.
Times for questions.
Time for questions. Just to be clear about this truck, so your intention would be to park the truck this winter, not plow with it. This truck is the truck. Just explain how it works in the fleet. So this is the truck you're driving right now.
This truck number 42 is used by the mechanic.
That's right.
To go out on the road and do repairs. He's got some tools in there that he goes out on the road and does repairs with it. During the winter, he uses it to plow. Sometimes the back road, the dirt roads. Sometimes he helps out the school. Sometimes he does the fire department, town halls, wherever we need that truck. That's the truck that we bounce around because the mechanics in it. And we try to keep it close to the shop in case we need it.
Okay. Questions from the selectmen?
Sure, I got some. So, Don, first of all, I hope that we do send this to town meeting, and I hope the town, after seeing the pictures, I hope the town does agree that you need a truck. My issue is this: all that damage to that truck, that rot, did not happen since June, and this was on the budget in June. It was eliminated from the budget in June. I didn't see any of these pictures. I didn't see any of the passion that we had to have that truck, and it should have been left in the budget. When we take something out of the budget and go for an appropriation 2 or 3 months later, we're circumventing the budget process. So the townspeople think that the truck's no longer in the budget. They're not going to buy one. And now here it is 4 months later, and we're asking the town for money. Again, I'm not saying we don't need the truck, but I think that at the time, a better case should have been made that it needed to be left in the budget, because there's no way in 4 months that truck was in much different condition than it is today. So I agree that we do need one, but I don't like the fact that when it looks like there's an appearance of circumventing the budget process.
Bob, I would just add, I'm pretty sure, and Christine can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we were pretty clear that we needed this truck. Our board was pretty clear. I think the Board of Finance removed this from the budget. So we did the job we felt was necessary. Unfortunately, the Board of Finance just chose to make a different direction. So I don't think that we didn't tell the story. I think we told it. It just, unfortunately, through the very, very difficult budget process, Board of Finance elected to remove it.
Yeah, the very clear direction from the Board of Finance when we knew we needed to make extreme cuts to the budget was to try to remove one-time expenditures and then come back for them for additional appropriations, especially because they would have to go back to town meeting so that the town would still have a say in it. So that was their strategy to help us get through the budget cycle.
So I think what we're doing here is exactly what they asked us to do. And I'm thankful that, Donnie, you brought it back up to me, so we make sure we did bring it forward if the board elects to want to do that.
Well, in all fairness, the exhaust manifold rot is a new discovery. The rest of it we knew about, and I've been trying to get a new truck since 2018. We've been trying to replace this truck, and every time it gets cut somewhere.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nina, do you have any questions? Is there a motion to, is there an interest in a motion to move truck replacements, new line item C119 truck replacement in the appropriation request amount of $53,000 for the replacement of the F-350 truck 42? Is there a motion to send that to Board of Finance for consideration?
Does a decision have to be made on which of the two trucks that Donnie just did a presentation on, which one we're going to use? One was 40.
I would prefer the cheaper one. I mean, I'm a frugal person myself, so the cheaper one would take longer to get. Hopefully it would be delivered in January. It could be later, but I'm not looking to spend more money than we have to.
So the number of the appropriation number is not 43,000, 53,000.
No, I think we had 53 on there just to, go ahead, Christine.
We put 53 because it was to be treated more as a not to exceed, since that was the higher quote. I think we did have a concern as to whether the less expensive truck would actually be available. So that was, we put the higher number so that you guys could discuss it and figure out what you wanted to do.
I might say, to your point, Bob, I mean, obviously we want to spend less money, but I also want to get the truck. I want to get the truck in time to be able to use it for the
Right,
winter.
we're not going with diesel. We're going to go with gas. So we're getting away from the higher numbers. We're not paying for a diesel motor, we're paying for a gas motor. So I try to keep it just as plain as we possibly could.
Since it's a plow truck and we're in for a bad winter, according to the Farmer's Almanac, I would say I'd rather get the truck sooner instead of later. And I would approve a vote to take it to the Board of Finance, which would ultimately go to the town meeting for approval.
So how I stated that motion, you'd make that motion, Bob?
I'll make the motion as stated by the first selectman.
Is there a second? Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Donnie. Okay, so item number 6, speed hump update discussion. So we, not to go down the rabbit hole about our discussion last week, but I think we were pretty clear about why we kind of put the brakes on last week, in that we wanted to have a little bit more discussion. Not that we don't think these would be very helpful, but that there was concern about the aesthetics that went with these, and that was information that was really unknown at the time when we approved them. What has happened over the last 2 weeks is we actually had spoken with the state's historical architectural, I don't know what his title
His
is.
title is State Historic Preservation Office, Department of Economics and Community Development. He's a historian.
Yeah, so somebody from the community called them, probably in concern for what the aesthetics of these would be. And these folks work with this kind of thing at the state all the time. So they reached out to us. And Donnie spoke with them. So I spoke with them as well. But Donnie, if you want to give a little bit of an update on that conversation.
Sure. So, Christine, can you put up the first one, the first email? This was an email conversation between myself and Todd Levine, the historian for the state of Connecticut. So his emails, he was still waiting to hear back from DOT because we were talking back and forth. I was trying to get him down here to actually look at the village to see what he was looking at in regards to all the properties and the buildings and everything like that. So he was telling me he's waiting to hear back from the state DOT. But he asked me some questions. He wanted to know why so many. Is there a formula to frequency and placement of the speed humps? Instead, could a fewer be placed in key locations, but perhaps not directly in front of historic houses? And this historic houses are all down in the village, so that was out. And then he went on to say, let's see, instead of actual speed humps, perhaps visual deterrents like brick or other materials that break up the road in sections across the road, perhaps a smaller, shorter speed humps. And how does the proposed speed humps affect plowing in the winter? So I went and talked to him about a couple of those things, explained to him that, the village itself has a lot of historic houses down there, so we couldn't move stuff around. As far as putting bricks across the road, that was totally out. So later that day or the next day, Todd emailed me back and said that he got a response from DOT. And DOT said, besides texture pavement, anything that narrows a lane can have a similar effect. One thing that's not mentioned was traverse line striping, which that are spaced further apart on approach, then get closer and closer together as you travel across them to give an effect like you're traveling faster than normal speed limit. It's a visual thing. Or creating the narrower field method to slow people down, planting along the edge of the road. Usually smaller trees make drivers feel confined and want to slow down. Obviously, sight lines would need to be a consideration for that. And then we wanted to know if there was room for medians, islands for confined traffic into a single lane, or maybe trying to use something else to calm traffic measures. But he said, and his conclusion was that speed humps are most likely most effective. So we knew that planning's not going to work along the road. We know that a lot of the stuff that they wanted to do is not going to work. So the only other follow-up thing was Bob was going to take a ride to go see the ones that were mentioned by.
I did, in Noank and Mason's Island. So the Mason's Island's on private property. It's in private part of Mason's Island, so they don't have to adhere. The ones in Noank are older, so they're probably not up to speed with what we want to put in today. But here's my concern, Donnie, that we voted on this a while ago, and it seems like every time we meet, there's more and more roadblocks and hurdles to get these speed humps in, and now here we are in almost October again. I know there's people in town that don't want them. The people most affected, the people in the village, the large majority have said on more than one occasion they do want them. I think there's a compromise, at least for this year. I would put 2 in on Main Street. Main Street. There's 4 according to the map that we're going to go in. I put 2 in there with all the signs, the lines, the paint, everything that would go with it. And then at the end of the winter and the spring, have a meeting with the village and say, do you like these? Don't you like them? Do they work? Don't they work? Do you find the aesthetics of them to be not pleasant? To me, it's just a case of listening to the taxpayer, the villages, the people who are most affected by these, and doing what the will is of the people. That's our job as town leaders, to do the will of the people. And I know what Mike was saying, we don't want to step on any toes and make the village look like we don't want it to look. But I would think that doing a couple of these isn't the end of the world. If the worst thing happens is that we put them 2 in with all the signs and the paint, and in the spring, the village says to us, we made a mistake, they're ugly, take them out. The town's out probably between $12,000 and $15,000. To me, that's a small price to pay to listen to the village and do what the villages have asked us to do. And God forbid somebody gets hurt and we don't listen to them and somebody gets hurt, then we have to live with that someone was hurt by a vehicle speeding through the village and we didn't listen. We never put the speed humps in. It could turn out to be one of the best things we ever did. It could turn out to be a giant mistake, but we won't know that unless we at least do a trial. And I would say put 2 in this year, see how they work. And if they work, we in the town, we're doing the village together. They say, let's put the other 6 in, or whatever the number happens to be. We'll put them in in the spring.
I just want to be clear. I had no position in not wanting to do it or wanting to do it. Information was brought forward that the selectman was not aware of at the last meeting, such as the aesthetics of these things. That's a big deal for a lot of people to see what these are going to look like and knowing that the signage that was required. So I didn't say whether I was for or against them. I wanted to make sure we had all the information before we made the decision. That's all.
I agree with you, Mike. I didn't say that you were against them. I said we had information that came to us and you put the halt on it to make sure we're going the right way.
Okay.
But now we're at the 11th hour. It's getting colder. We have to do something. If we voted on these, I think we got to follow through with our vote and see what happens. And we don't have to put 8 in right now. We'll just put a couple, and then the village will know. We drove over them all winter. We'll know by the spring whether these are great or whether they're awful. Rip them out, leave them in. We'll have a better answer, but at least we've listened to the people who have asked us for them.
I understand that you voted on them and you put them through, but my concern is that no research was done on it before saying, yeah, we're going to do it. Because I didn't know about them either, Bob. I mean, I knew nothing about speed bumps or these speed bumps until I was told that they wanted to put them in. And then I started the research. I've been looking at talking to other towns, and I'm hearing horror stories. So I brought them back to you to make that part of your, make you aware of those also.
I don't disagree.
Thank you,
Shame on us for you not knowing about it when we started talking about these 3 years ago in the Village Improvement Committee. So I don't know why the last 3 years that the information wasn't brought to you, the head of the town garage to say, hey, we're thinking about this.
Do we have a sound issue online? I think, can we just take a poll to see if anyone can hear us online? Somebody raise your hand if you can hear us online. That's online, please. Okay, thank you. Must be a one-off. Somebody's having an issue. Great. Thank you. Thank you, audience, for paying attention. Okay, thank you, Donnie, for your comments. What do you guys want to do? I mean, I hear what you're saying about 2. Honestly, I just assume do all 8. That's what we approved to do. If we're going to do them, we might as well just do them right.
I think the contractor bid it on that, on those 8.
On the
also.
8, so, I mean,
But I'm sure he'd work with us because they're a good company, so.
yeah.
So why would we want to put in all 8 and then find out that it is a mistake and the village decided they don't want them? And now the town has to incur the cost of putting in 8 and taking out 8. Why not just do a trial with 2?
Can you put your microphone on, Anita? Thank you.
You want to know where I'd put them?
Sorry.
I'm not an engineer, Anita. I have no idea where they would go. I have to defer to some of them a lot smarter than I am when it comes to that.
Well, my concern with the whole thing is, I'm gonna tell you what my concern is. When these things go in, we end up, because we got no crowning on the road down there, we end up puddles behind them come winter time. Those are gonna be ponds. And that's my biggest concern, is those are gonna turn into ponds. Because they were just saying, we're gonna put them here, we're gonna put them there, we're gonna put them there, here. And there was no engineering done on them. So I'll put them wherever you want me to put them.
All right, so for an act, just to make clear what the selectmen's action should or shouldn't be tonight, we voted to move this forward. We have pricing to move this forward. Our action was to install these. The only reason the brakes got put on 2 weeks ago was because we had new information. I brought that forward. In order to reverse what we have decided to do, there should be some sort of a action from the selectmen. Otherwise, Donnie should leave and get these things installed.
So I move that we have people in the audience, both for and against, because I see them out there, and I would like to open up conversation to the audience on this one agenda item.
Is there a second to open up public comment on the
So me.
further discussion on opening the agenda item? I would just say we have heard a lot of comments. I think we're going to hear a lot of repeat comments on this. I don't see any value, not that I don't love hearing everyone's opinion, but I have heard everyone's opinion on this. So.
But
There's
that's not the case, because the foreman just came in with new information tonight. That's brand new information.
Great. Well, there's a motion and a second. So all those in favor of opening up comments on agenda item number 6, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? I'll just abstain from that vote. Okay, comments are open. So looks like we have our first comment. Come on up, Gary. Welcome.
That's okay.
Hello.
There you go.
Okay. 91 Main Street, North Stony, Gary and Needham. No offense, but I think you misread one of the lines, one of the key lines from the historian, and that was speed bumps are most likely effective.
That's what I said. I did say that.
I thought you had it reversed.
No, he said that.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to point out that the state historian, even though it's a registered area, it's not a jurisdictional thing. These are only his opinion. We are limited that we can't use federal dollars to change the flavor of the neighborhood. So the last is, can we see the proposed locations of the speed bumps? Because when we brought you the data, the request was, don't just do this. Let us be a part of it. And you had a survey done with DJ and Donnie and yourself went out and picked the spots, but we never saw where you're planning. But
Well, we would want to defer to the experts. We certainly wouldn't want just community members picking where the speed bumps would go. We want, I think the paving company actually Donnie was working with them and we had some spots that we had in mind, but I think in general, we were going to try to figure out the spot that made the most sense, whether it be the less pooling of the possibility of drainage not being an issue. So we were trying to take all those things into consideration.
Yeah, so do you have the locations identified? Can we at least see them?
We do, but I don't think we have that tonight. Or
Bob has.
Okay, I'll grab that in a second. The last thing is, we've done a lot of changes to the village without going through any of this rigmarole. We put in the striped crosswalks, we put in the welcome to the village historic signs. It almost seems like this is a targeted, we don't want to do this, so we're going to throw some stuff up.
yeah, I have to absolutely disagree with what you're saying there, Gary. We've done more than I can remember public outreach on village decisions than anything I can think of. We had a community conversation. We've done a walk audit. We had extensive discussions in meetings about those village signs. So honestly, I think we've tried to really take care in the village, especially being that it's our cultural district. It's the heart of the town. So I think we've tried to take the extra steps. And that's all we're doing here. I am completely fine with speed humps going in, and I'm completely fine if they don't, but I want to make sure everybody's safe as can be. That's all I'm concerned about.
And they can be synthetic in season. We've done them at work. We put them down in the summer. We take them off for the plows. There is a way to do it. You can buy them in any sort of width based on the
That's a
speed
bump
you're trying to control.
Yeah,
That's a bump, not a
that's
hump.
speed bump.
Look, because we did it on campus.
Well, we have one. We have a couple up on Billings Lake Road.
Yeah, those are, I don't want
And
those.
I'm just saying, we have them up there and they come loose. We actually have a glue we're trying this time around. But so just so you understand, when I approach things, I approach them with my past job with a liability thing in the back of my head, because, people today sue you for everything. So I try to protect the town a little bit by maybe bringing up the liability issues. If they want to go forward with them, that's my job. Then that's what I do.
Got it.
If they don't want to go forward, then that's my job too. So just so you understand where I'm coming from.
We're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jonna Chokas, 6 Rocky Hollow, 4 Rocky Hollow. I'm not going to lament into all the reasons why I think we need speed humps. I hear you with liability issues. I will just let you know that I've been hit in front of the library trying to turn into the library because of speeding. There was an accident that happened at the corner of Rocky Hollow Main Street this year. This past Sunday, a woman's dog got hit on Main Street on the upper end. There's been numerous accidents. So in terms of liability, I think the town should be more concerned about people getting injured than people's cars getting, beaten up. If you're going the speed limit and a speed hump is designed for 25 miles an hour, it shouldn't be an issue. So really appreciate your time. And I hope that these speed humps do not get waylaid any further. And I'm glad to actually see where these are going, because we've been asking for that for a long time. So we would like to have some input since it is a village thing. Thanks.
Well, just so you know, those could move one way or another 20 to 30 feet because they're 30 feet long.
Sure.
So they can move, we might have to move them one way or another because of a drain there or a water shut-off valve there.
Sure.
Like that.
Perfect. It's just, we've been asking, I know I've personally been asking to see the placement and I haven't come across it yet. So I'm excited to see where.
Lose power.
Yes. Yes, I have a button. No, I don't. Actually, can Jim see about that? Great. We have 2 online comments too. John, are you all set or? Okay, great. Why don't we go to the online, see if we have hear one of those comments.
Okay, so Mustafa, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So my question here, I agree with Gary, and as you said, Mike, the expert, he needs to do the whole thing, but he was asking you, just as I heard, just tell me where to put and I can put them. That's number one. Number two, I've been after this project 10 years ago. As you guys, you can see, the beginning of Main Street and the end of Main Street has one sign that says, and correct me if I'm wrong, deaf child, right? Do you see that now? You guys see that, right? I believe you see that. Everybody can see that. And my child has been deaf, all these years, and I don't think that's gonna change. So I start asking Nick back then when she starts walking to do something about this. But obviously, it was for him, it was not a big deal, and he just started putting ridiculous stuff there. And this we're talking about like 10 years ago. And now we're still talking about the same thing. My kid doesn't hear, and she crossed the street to go to school. Yes, she does hearing aid, but if those hearing aids batteries go off and she cannot hear, she wouldn't notice right away. She can hit with some stupid guys who drive in this main street crazy. Beside my kids, I'm not gonna talk about it. Leave my kid alone who is deaf. I have a neighbor who has 3 kids. They're all young kids. One of them, he just starts walking. So now you're telling me about like, oh, it's gonna look ugly and stuff. What do you want me to do for me? Do you want me to bring like some kind of picture, like the truck you were talking about now? And when it's an accident happens here, somebody lost his life, and then I will take picture and bring it to the meeting and show you, oh, here's what happened. Here's the kid who get hurt. Probably he died or he broke his legs, or this way you can see it like the truck and you give it that more importance. Is that what we need to do to make it happen? Or maybe, the human being life is not as important as the trucks. That's what I think as of now. Because the truck, it was very important. We have a guy who came here giving speech about the truck and the pictures and all that stuff. But when we're talking about saving lives here, having people slow down, we start talking about like, oh, well, we talked about this, showing me the email, and he said this, and he said that. This is getting ridiculous. Guys, get to business, get these things done as soon as possible. As you said, make it happen in this village where we have the big problem. And then if it works, and it will work, or it will work for us, then you can go from there. That's what I think you need to do. So you need to get these things done.
Thank you, Mustafa. We'll take the other comment that's online if there is one. There's 2 more comments. All right, I'm going to ask everybody to remember to keep your comments to 2 minutes. We have a really full agenda. Thank you.
Okay, so phone number ending in 3754. Go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, this is Sean Murphy. I just wanted to comment that, as Mustafa mentioned, that this has been on Selectmen agendas at least once, maybe even twice previously. We've looked in, we've researched the guidelines for speed humps and the required locations and distances from intersections and everything else, and the required signage and road striping and so forth. We also considered the very first step that seems to be missing in this case, in that we proved the need by doing intensive traffic speed enforcement in the village. And what we found out is our state trooper at that time did not see an issue with speeding in the village. And I think that one of the first things that the selectmen need to do is determine, first off, the need for a speed hump to be in place to impede on travel. We should have a process that does that first. And we should have a process of a guidelines that we use when determining speed hump locations in town. So we know how to handle when neighborhoods such as Cedar Ridge, Kingswood, other roads such as Wyosip, any road has a cry out from folks for speed humps as a result of speeding. I think we need to research, do a traffic study, do enforcement, and document the need. And then if the need, determine if there's a proven need, then we should put speed humps down. And I'm sure in the proper locations, they will indeed, although, an obstacle to through traffic, they will do the job of slowing traffic down.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Sean. Ron Lewis. I don't think it's on, Ron. Sorry. Just hold it down.
No.
Just try to talk into it.
Ron Lewis, 8 Ruderman Road, North Stonington. I own 2 properties in the village, and I'm glad to see that we just got the map showing where the locations are. I grew up in town my whole life. Basically, the village, it's always been a speedway. Actually, it used to be even, cars used to speed even more and more when the school was open and everybody was burning rubber and in our teenage years. But I do agree, we do need more enforcement in the village. We need enforcement in the village, and I'll probably be the one that ends up getting pulled over. But essentially, if we had more police presence down by the library, over by the church, over by Main Street, if we had more enforcement, it would slow a lot of the cars down. We don't see any enforcement at all in the village. Secondly, I think the speed bumps, I wish we were more informed as to locations and how it's going to detrimentally affect our property values. If that speed bump was directly in front of one of my properties, what's the effects? You're going to hear cars bottom out all the time. If it's going to be like the one in New London over by the police, over by the train station, that thing is just a nightmare. I was in Pennsylvania a couple weeks ago, and what they did in Pennsylvania, essentially they narrowed the roads down. They had more pedestrian crossings, which maybe we should go with more pedestrian crossings. Maybe at both the churches, a couple crossings there with a man in the road, just like Donnie did in the village. That helps. Crossings help with a person in the middle, plastic manner. Or narrow the roads down. Narrow the roads down at each one of the crossings to deter and slow down the traffic. If you are going to put a speed bump in, try one. Try one somewhere and see what the village thinks of it. See what the what the detrimental impacts are going to be, or maybe they'll be positive. Maybe people won't want it. We are in a historic village. We don't want to ruin our village and turn it into a commercial strip. But that's what I say. Selectmen, get some more enforcement out there.
Thank you, Ron. Go ahead online.
Joe Gross, go ahead and unmute. Joe Gross.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Joe.
If you listen to everybody's comment this evening, there's no question that there's a need to slow traffic. There's a need for cost. There's time involved and the liabilities. Yet we proposed and told the town many moons now, and you go back to many of your meetings, at no cost to be done immediately. Lower the speed limit. Put your state troopers there and they will give out the tickets. And then by the time you go through another month of discussing what the selectmen are going to do, you're either going to have a ton of tickets or you're not going to have any problem. Now, I support the village needs, but it's not just the village. When you're talking money, you're talking me. I support what they want. But please, I haven't heard nothing said about you could do it immediate now, at no cost. Lower the speed limit, put the troopers in there, see what happens. By the time you have your next meeting and you determine what you're going to do with speed humps, where they're going and all these little stripes and flags and stuff, you will have all that data, how many tickets were given out and has it been effective by doing that? So I'm asking, I hear nothing about it. It's like a wind goes through and nobody listens. Everybody just wants speed hump. Speed hump, I'll support. Do something immediate though. We could get that done and I think it should be done. Try it, guys, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Another comment?
Yep. Dan or Steph Horgan? We can see you've unmuted, but we can't hear you.
How about now?
Barely hear you.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah, so we're obviously at 25 Main Street. And basically, yeah, we can see every single day cars speeding by, sometimes 50 miles an hour or more. It's pretty obvious. I don't think lowering the speed limit is going to do much, as the speed limit there currently is, I believe, 25. So they're already doubling it going there. And as I think, as Jenna mentioned earlier, there's already been a number of instances of people getting hit by cars in the village. I don't really think the number of speed bumps, the color of them, whether they're pink or purple, or the cost outweighs human life, to be honest. We don't have any kids or animals that are outside, so it's nothing got to do with that for us. It's more about people's safety basically in the village. Steph?
Yeah, basically just, we're very close to Route 2, obviously, and it's just people come off of Route 2 and literally just coast straight onto Main Street and just do not slow down at all.
Yeah.
I go out to get my mail and literally I'm terrified. They whiz by me and just don't even brake like at all. It's crazy. There's a stop sign there. I don't understand how they can be going that fast, but it's just, that's the reality of it. I won't keep going on and on about it. I just wanted to mention from this side of Main Street, it is insane.
Thank you for your comments. I also received an email advocating for speed humps for what it's worth for some people that are not living close to town, but I'd like to move on. Go ahead, one more comment. Donnie, you're all set. You can sit down. You can be seated.
Important. Carl Johnston, 8B Rudman Road. As you can see, you keep saying you've had discussions, everybody was involved, you've done everything. Tonight, I asked you to do what you just did. Everybody got to talk what they're doing. You had a meeting a few weeks ago that you invited Donnie, and nobody else knew what you were going to do because I have no idea what you were going to do. You discussed everything that night, so that's one of your discussions without us being involved. Tonight, we all knew you were coming to do this. That's why we're all here doing it right now. So to give us a chance to talk to you all the time and know what's going on and everybody know where the bumps are going so we can see if there's 22 stuffed in one spot and nothing in the other spot. The information seems to be stuck there. It doesn't seem to get out to us out here. So I don't know how you can fix that or how you want, but I thank you for taking and doing the discussion tonight. Thank you.
Go ahead, online.
Brian Stout, go ahead and unmute.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I live at 90 Main Street. I have 3 kids with one on the way, and people definitely do speed a lot. I know I'm not saying anything new, but there are a lot of people that drive really fast down the street, including town vehicles and the buses, which I think are almost one of the worst offenders. And just speaking on behalf of my family, we really would appreciate the speed humps, but definitely something to say the least, because we've lived here for 4 years or so, and I haven't seen any change in the traffic pattern. So I personally don't think that reducing the speed limit is going to make people magically drive slower or necessarily narrowing the road. But yeah, just from my family, we're in favor of speed humps. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Go ahead.
In Purple House, I can't walk to the Congregational Church every Sunday morning. I get my mail and I take my life in my hands. People drive on my lawn. Anytime someone backs out of my driveway, they are literally taking their lives and their property in their hands. It is dangerous. We have fought this with this town longer than I have lived here. And we have gotten the runaround. We have done these studies over and over and over. You made a commitment to us. You committed to us to put these speed humps in. It's time to stop jerking around. We're tired. We're angry. It is time to put the humps in and move on.
Thank you. We good? Okay, comments are closed. Donnie, you can sit down, please. Are there any other comments from the selectmen? Because right now we have 8 speed humps that are ready to go in. Professionals will decide where they go. That is how it should work. Do you want to change the direction from what has been already agreed to? I brought new information at the last meeting about the aesthetics of the speed humps. We know now that there's signage that's going to be required on both sides of the speed humps. We know that there'll be paint on the speed humps. We had decided and funded and already went out to RFP for the 8 speed humps. This board, in defense of this board, has actually brought this forward. So I can't speak to the other boards of selectmen that didn't bring anything forward, but we have. And we've taken great care to pay attention to the village's needs by having walk audits, by having community conversations about things and actually taking action on items. So I think everybody should rest assured that we've tried to take steps as a board because we've been very concerned about these issues. So that's why we're actually taking action where many others haven't. I have no comment to change anything that we move forward. I would suggest that we just move forward with what we already voted on and have Donnie implement it. Unless there's a motion otherwise, I think we move on to the next agenda item. We already did. It's already done.
Thank you.
Hearing no other motions, Donnie, your direction tomorrow is to get them installed where they, the professionals say. That's it.
Actually, October 11th, October 11th, I talked to Jim and today.
Great. Great. Thank you. And Donnie, thanks for all your work on this. And thank you, everybody, for your feedback. And I'm sorry that you felt like if some of you didn't feel included in the process. We have tried and possibly could always do better and certainly would like to do better. So thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 7. I don't know. Okay, so our guest is here. So we did discuss this at the last one of the last meetings. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we have a lot of items on the agenda that carry over from a month to a month because we work on things. Things don't just happen in one meeting, they happen over time. And this is the updates to the government volume supplement or money purchase plan. What I'd like to do, first of all, is invite Claire, who is from our the administrator of this plan to, I think we need to, I want to explain a little bit about what this plan is so people understand that. And then I want to just recap the reasoning for why we brought forward the possible changes to the plan. So Claire, thanks for joining us. I know you're on the line. Could you just give us a brief overview of how this plan works and specifically what differentiates this plan from a traditional pension plan that the state has, for instance, for the state employees? Welcome.
Hi, thank you. This is a governmental plan for the town that is a flat-based percentage of the employees' compensation. Okay, and these are for all non-union employees. There's some union employees in here. And other, I guess what you call, I don't know your definition internally in the town, the type of employees that are covered under this plan. But this is a money purchase, which is a flat % of compensation that is given each year to the employees, to the government employees there. And the plan has a vesting schedule. So if someone leaves prior to 6 years of employment, they will only get a percentage of what has accumulated in their account. Anyone that has stayed more than 6 years gets 100% of what has accumulated in their retirement balance.
Thank you. And the difference, we contribute to this yearly, so there's no long-term obligation on this plan. Like the state plan where you hear about the state is now going to pay $1.6 billion against their pension plan because they have these liabilities. Town of North Stonington has no long-term liability on the pension plan. Every year we fund an amount that we budget for to put in here, and that money is put into accounts for the employees. We brought this up for discussion a couple of meetings ago, and the reason it was brought up was twofold. That we had, it was our time of year to review the plan, so we needed to review it, and we wanted to make two changes. The first one was to make sure that we just articulated properly that part-time employees are exempt from the plan. And that is in there, but it wasn't spelled out as articulately as we thought we should spell it out. So that was number one. The second thing that we brought up was the fact that we felt that the vesting schedule was not equitable for all parties. So in other words, those who are over 65 or whatever age it is, they get an automatic vesting, while younger employees have to go through the vesting process, which makes sense on a pension plan, but this isn't a pension plan. This is a money purchase plan where we're putting the money in every year. So it doesn't seem equitable for younger staff to be, kind of penalized. I felt that to be more of an incentive to staff, as we are in a very competitive work and employment environment now, it's more attractive for someone to see that this incentive is something they actually will attain. Not that we don't want people to work for 6 years at the town, of course we do, but I think the way it works today, the more attractive you can be. This is money we're already funding. So when the person starts and they're eligible on January 1, we're funding that for the person. So for us to hold back those funds for 5 years, it's not as attractive when we try to attract staff. And the other part of this is that we haven't seen any data that is supporting that people are leaving like once they're vested. So in other words, you'd think, well, we should have this 5-year vesting so that people stay. Well, people are staying 30 years. They're staying 20 years. They're staying because it's an attractive plan for them to have. And quite frankly, the other thing that we should take into account is that if you were to do an analysis of our pay scale here at the town, we're not necessarily the most competitive. So this actually helps to be more attractive to attracting staff. So my initial proposal was to remove the vesting schedule. I did speak with the pension folks, and they did talk about we could reduce it to a 3-year if that's something that you are interested in doing. But my initial proposal was just to remove it all together. Once somebody has, they cannot start being a participant in the plan until January 1st anytime. So if somebody starts in February, they don't get to start participating until the following January anyway. But once somebody starts in January, it would basically give them the ability to, whatever the funds that are deposited that they're entitled to based on when they started, those would be funds that they would have in this plan available to them. So I brought Claire on that maybe if you have any questions, she could answer about it. And just, we did say we'd bring this back up for further discussion. So that's why it's on the agenda tonight. Is there any questions or discussion or comments?
I have comments. First of all, Claire, thanks for coming. Unfortunately, don't have any questions of you, but I do have comments. My first comment, and I'm against this on multiple levels, but the first one is even the way it was presented on the agenda. Updates to the governmental volume submitter money purchase plan. No word pension. Now, you can tell me it's not a pension, it's this, but the agenda, we do an agenda for two reasons. One is to do a roadmap for a particular board or commission on how they're going to run their meeting, what we're going to speak about, and in what order we're going to speak on these issues. Secondly, the agenda is done for the voting public. We put the agenda out, that's why we post it ahead of time, so the taxpayer can see the agenda, see what's on it, and then they can decide whether there's something on it of interest that they want to go to the meeting. The number 7 on this plan, updates to governmental volume submitter money purchase plan. I can tell you now, there's probably not 98% of the people that read that do not know that's about a pension plan. Yet we have the document itself, which I have a copy of, says Town of North Stonington Pension Plan. The worksheet that you sent today, sent on Friday for us to talk about tonight, says the Town of North Stonington Pension Plan. And in the budget line number 20.06, it's referred to as the employment benefits / pension. I'm not supposed to say words with P, I get it, sorry, pension. So anyway, with that said, every document we have says pension plan, yet we chose to put it on the agenda as the governmental volume submitter money purchase. These small things like this are what makes people upset at lack of transparency by the leadership. This should have said pension plan. That's my number one bone to pick with this. Secondly, the worksheet goes out of its way to explain that, yes, most of the people that we employ stay more than 5 years. So that's the equivalent of me putting a Band-Aid on my arm that's not bleeding in case it might bleed. Or why would we try to fix something that's not broken? You're proving a point that most people stay. So why are we going to fix it? And we just hired someone new, a new PDZO officer, and this never even was an issue. The third thing I want to say is forfeitures. I looked at the pension line item for the last 4 budgets, and it goes up at an average of $10,000 per year. According to the pension plan, forfeitures could be used to go back and pay for the plan. So we save taxpayer dollars by forfeitures. So if someone does leave early and they leave $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in forfeitures, that can be used by the taxpayers to pay for the increases in the plan. And the last thing I want to say about this is we're going to talk about a document later tonight called the Town of North Stonington Code of Ethics. It's something that we're going to get behind. We're going to bring to a town meeting. We're going to ask the town to vote on. In the Code of Ethics, it's going to be in section 4 under conflict of interest, paragraph B, a town official, officer, and or employee shall refrain from voting upon or otherwise participating in any manner on behalf of the town if he or she or member of his or her immediate family has a financial interest. And as of today, Mike has a financial interest. So I know you said you can try to remove yourself, which we're not sure you can. So my opinion is if we vote on this today, you should abstain or refrain from voting. Or if you move this to another meeting, go back and get proof that you did remove yourself from the plan, and then you'd be able to vote on it. And that's all I have to say.
Nita, do you have any comments?
No.
Yeah, I mean, my point of bringing this up is that I feel like we want to be as competitive as we can as a town. Certainly there is funds to be recaptured if people leave by the plan. But I think what you want to try to do is be as competitive as possible. And that was part of the reason for bringing it up. And I mean, if there's not an appetite to make a change to it, then that's fine. But this was the time to bring it up. So I've done that. So if there's no motion to make any change to the plan, we would just move on from the item. Yes.
Do we need to do the approval of the
Part-time employee?
wording of the part-time?
Yeah, we can make that motion if somebody wants to. I would also say, just because I think people may not be aware of this, you know, I had actually voted to remove the first selectman from the pension plan altogether in the budget process. And then the Board of Finance put it back in the budget because then they reduced the first selectman's salary by $15,000 a year approximately. I think we have done an absolute disservice to trying to attract candidates to run for first selectman, evidenced by the fact that no one else is running. And Bob, I'm very thankful you're running, but there's been no competition. And I think that we're going to struggle to see people. Granted, I know there's the argument is, well, we want people to run because they want to run. Well, we want people to run because they're qualified to run too. And we want people to run because they feel like they can actually do the job. I think it's a lot of work to do this job. And I think it's an unfortunate situation that we have kind of shortchanged the first selectman position. But, with that being said, is there a motion to approve the language that was last presented with regards to part-time employees participating in the governmental volume submitter money purchase plan?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? I'll second it. It's the part-time. Yeah, exemption.
I'm going to stay out of it completely.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. You're going to abstain from the vote? You want to abstain from that?
Yes.
Nita abstains, so she'll be noted in the minutes as abstaining. Motion carries. Claire, thanks so much for taking the time to be on this meeting. I really appreciate it. And all you guys do for our plan, we really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and take care.
All right, have a good one. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 8, Sustainable CT Opportunity Climate Planning. I wanted to mention, first of all, our Sustainable CT group, our Sustainability Committee has been very, very busy, and I'm really proud of all the work they're doing. We actually had an opportunity, which is included in the Selectmen's packet, to participate in some climate planning for our community. And unfortunately, climate change is a reality that's going to affect every town. And we haven't really done a heck of a lot of planning as it relates to that. We were selected as a town to be able to participate in some discussions about planning. And so we did express interest in being able to participate. There is a meeting upcoming to kind of start those discussions with some other communities in the state that are going to do the same planning. And so I just wanted to make people aware that this is something we're starting to look at, and that discussions will be taking place with our sustainability people as well as our PDZO. I think, Bob, you were going to be possibly were you invited to this? I think no. Okay. Well, you will be, obviously, because you'll be heading the town, and as well as our sustainability people. So I think it's an exciting opportunity for the town, and it's free. So it's just a matter of us participating and giving what information they need. So I just wanted to give that update.
So Mike, there's no voting or discussion on the 3 options at this point then?
No, there isn't, but we did talk about it with the Sustainability Committee. We went through them to discuss with the 3 options, which one would make the most sense. And it seemed like that I think they were all good options to study, especially the EV one was very interesting given our proximity to 95. But I think the fact that we don't have any climate resiliency planning really done in town is concerning. So I think it's a good opportunity for us.
I did look at some of the minutes, the ones that were posted through, I think, August 17th. But they seem to be meeting almost weekly, even though they were told they would meet bi-monthly.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm looking forward to meeting with them down the road and having discussions. Thank you.
Yep. Any questions on this? Okay. Bob, I think you had the update for number 9.
Yeah, so I attended a meeting with our new PDZO, Nathan. It's on the resolution authorizing the town of North Stonington to proceed with a resolution. And what it is, it's on watershed and flood prevention, mostly with the Wood and Pawcatuck rivers. We don't get involved too much with the Wood River because that's Rhode Island, but Pawcatuck River is part of our border, and there's a lot of tributaries that run off of the Pawcatuck. And with all the rain we've been getting and with the way the seasons have been changing, it seems like flooding gets to be more and more of an issue. So at this point, there is no expense for this town to be a member of this, just to go to meetings, listen to what they have to say, maybe help us identify areas in town that are susceptible to future flooding. And then if they do find there's a place that has a potential for future flooding and they come up with a way to remedy that, they would come to the town with a proposal. At that point, the town can decide whether they want to participate in that or not. So on this resolution, the next to the last line item says, whereas participating in the plan phase does not obligate a municipality to further participation in this project if they feel the alternative selected does not meet the goals of their municipality. So we're not obligated to pay any monies for this unless it makes sense. I mean, they might come to us with a situation where multiple homes could get flooded out in a one of those once in a 100-year storms, which we seem to have about every other month now. And I think it's a good thing for our town to be involved in. And again, because we have the control of our purse strings, no one's going to force us to spend them unless it makes sense. I recommend that we do adopt this resolution.
Do you want to make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented?
Yes, I make a motion that we adopt the resolution authorizing the town of North Stonington to be a member of the Wood Pawcatuck Watershed Plan E Development Flood Prevention Operation.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Bob, for attending that and participating. Next up, we have the American Rescue Plan. Just to reiterate what I said at the beginning of the meeting, we have elected to go through this process of, we did put a plan together at the beginning. If you remember, I presented it to everyone and we kind of went through it and decided that we felt pretty favorably on a lot of the things. And, but we didn't allocate funds to say, okay, we're going to spend X, Y, or Z. We've kind of taken more of a week by week approach. And that doesn't mean we're not being planful. I think we are being planful, but this is just the way we've gone about it. And we will go to Board of Finance for all the expenditures. And if they're over 20,000, we've been going to town meetings. So I did bring forward a request for some additional signage. We have lost a couple of signs over time. If you notice, those signs that we have around town, which they're getting pulled this week, but they've been very helpful in communicating, whether it's about a vote or about the COVID-19 communication or whatever. And we have lost a couple of them. So I wanted to replace and get 6 more of them just so we have them. They're nice because we can actually print what goes inside of them right at town hall and just go out and insert those into the signs.
These are the portable signs on, I think they have wheels and they see them in the rotary.
Yeah, they're not like sandwich boards. It's nice because sandwich boards, you need kind of a more expensive insert for them. We can actually just print the paper for these. Granted, over time, they don't hold up quite as well because they can get wet and they get a little wrinkly. So you got to switch them out. But I still think it's probably the best. I mean, at $170 a piece, they're not expensive really. So I was going to move forward to try to get 6 more. And I think that's certainly appropriate to take that out of COVID expenditures. I mean, I've used them mostly for COVID communication recently.
No, I agree.
So could I have a motion to approve the expenditure of $1,092.28 to go to Board of Finance for consideration for signage?
So moved.
Moved by Anita, second by Bob. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The second thing in your packet is, as it relates to this business, as it relates to rescue plan funding, is TVCCA. They did make this request of us. In fact, Bob, they will be well represented. I think Deb Monahan, their CEO, is probably going to be one of the leaders on that call that you're attending on Friday.
Thursday.
On Thursday, rather. Thank you. This is a one-time request of $2,000 from the towns. I did speak with our senior center director to get her endorsement on this, and she was very supportive of TVCCA, what they do for North Stonington, and that we approve this request on their behalf. So is there any motion or discussion to approve this request?
Mike, I looked into it myself, and I think from what I heard, they handle about 5 or 6 of our seniors right now with meals. It's been more in the past, it could be more in the future. I think this is what the American Rescue Funds are made for. This is what they're there for, to help those in need. So I'd be all for approving this $2,000.
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Letter C, which we added to the agenda, which was not on the agenda. We didn't get the information in time when we had posted the agenda, but we got it. You two had received, and myself received, an email from Brett, the chair of the Economic Development Commission, after our agenda had been posted with regards to this North Stonington Works bonus program. So this was discussed last time. My reading over this, I did ask Christine after it came in. She wasn't CC'd on it, but we had said at the last meeting that we needed there to be some connection with the finance office at the town to make sure what was being proposed was acceptable. I don't know if it didn't sound like that happened. So I don't know that we can move this forward tonight, but we have some investigation to do. If you remember, we said that at the last meeting that there had to be a connection there. It didn't happen.
So we did say that, and then they went to the Board of Finance meeting, and the Board of Finance approved it pending a final approval by the Board of Selectmen once there was some loose ends, some T's crossed and some I's dotted on a few of the finer points, which we have here. I don't remember the part about getting together with the finance director, but that makes sense to me. But I don't think that should hold up the approval of it. I think that can be done. That can be done at a later time.
Yeah, it has to be vetted out, because we don't know how we are actually going to pay this. The question, if you remember from the last meeting, was, are we going to pay directly to the employees, or is the town going to pay it to the employer? And we had some, there was going to be connection that happened between the chair and, I think, Christine, was it you or Susan? Okay, and that never happened, so we don't have answers to that.
Well, Mike, Brett did come in and speak to Christine, and he told me that the consensus was that we would pay the employer and not the individual, because the individual doesn't work for the town of North Stonington.
Christine, you can weigh in on it. I wasn't in the conversation.
Yep, that happened prior to the EDC meeting when everything was ironed out. I received nothing after they met on Friday. I only received information after Mike forwarded it to me. I have questions because there's information in here that wasn't in the original presentation, such as the stipends to help cover hiring expenses. That wasn't something that was discussed when it was brought up to you guys initially, and I don't understand if that would be eligible with the ARPA money. So that's something that would need to be researched, and what kind of expenses those even would include. So
I guess my other concern with it is that I was very clear last meeting that sector would be the ones to administer this. And there's an email here that doesn't exist. At northstoningtoncg.gov. That email that's not an email, that's a working email. So I don't know if that was just like a placeholder email, but that's not a sector email. And that's who should be taking these applications. I think we were all in agreement about that last time, that sector was to be the people that oversaw that. We don't want the liability or the responsibility at the town.
No, I agree. And I thought the EDC did say that they were going to be using sector to administer this plan, but.
Okay. So, I mean, I think there's a couple of questions that we have to just get ironed out, those two. So maybe if, obviously we're not going to iron them out tonight. So if you could, we can just connect offline with this and take it up at the next meeting. As much as I do want to see this happen right away. Still some unanswered questions, I think, there.
Excuse me, I can answer those questions for you.
No, I mean, we can't answer them tonight because we need clarity that we have to check with the auditor on, Brett. Thank you. Okay, moving on, the Code of Ethics review.
Christine, you want me to take that one? Yes. Okay, so myself, Christine, and the town labor attorney met. Pretty much just the same code of ethics that we brought up. I developed about 6 or 8 months ago. There was not a lot of changes. The biggest change is the creation of a commission. That's what we had to do if we're going to have this thing work for us. So that's where we cleaned up the loose ends. And in this report that we'll present if we approve it here as a Board of Selectmen to bring to town meeting, that the town will then hopefully adopt. I believe it's a pretty thorough code of ethics. I think the setting up of the commission, which would have 5 full-time members with 3-year terms and 3 yes, alternate members. Oh, the word escaped me. 3 alternate members that would have 3-year terms. We would start out with the 5 members having 2 with a 1-year term, 2 with a 2-year term, and 1 with a 3-year term. So we don't have a complete changing of the board every 3 years. There would be an opportunity if you felt someone was in violation of the code of ethics, they can get an advisory opinion by submitting a form to the town labor attorney, which then they would decide whether there was enough reasons to bring this to the Code of Ethics Commission. If they did, it would be forwarded to the Code of Ethics Commission, who would then make a decision and decide if there's fault and what the penalty would be. This applies to all elected, appointed officials, town employees, and pretty much that's it. I think it's a well-written document, and I think I'm looking forward to bringing it to the town to better understand it. One other thing is that anyone that's, when they're elected to office or appointed to office or hired by the town, they'll have a copy of this that they'll have a certain amount of time to read and sign off saying they understand it, and then return the signed copy back to the town so we have it on file. Is there any questions, Nita or Mike, on that?
Sounds good.
So my understanding is the ethics really has more to do with just the financial end of things. It's not, I think some of the things we had talked about in the past of concerns maybe weren't necessarily going to be covered by this. For instance, behavior of whether it's a staff person or an official of the town being elected or appointed on social media, for instance.
No, you are correct. There's a second document that Christine will go over called the Town of North Stonington Discriminatory Harassment, Workplace Violence, and Inappropriate Behavior Policy. I was just going to talk about the Code of Ethics, which you're right, Mike. It is pretty much a financial doctrine, not a behavioral document.
Great, thanks. Yeah, thanks for your work on it. So as you said, Bob, this will have to go, if we were to approve this, I think we'd send this to town meeting for a final approval. Do we want to, I do have a town meeting, call for a town meeting discussion on the agenda later on the agenda. Do we feel like this is in a place to send this to the town for approval?
I do.
Okay. Is there a motion to send the Code of Ethics to the town for an approval?
I make a motion to send the Code of Ethics as presented tonight to the town for approval.
I second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up.
Okay, so the discriminatory harassment, workplace violence, and inappropriate behavior policy is meant for both town employees and also officials to make sure that not only workplace, but also public meeting environments are appropriate and everyone is comfortable. And so the policy sets forth the town's goals of having workplaces and public meeting spaces that are free of any harassment, violence, and or inappropriate behavior. The policy is not designed or intended to limit the town's authority to take disciplinary or remedial action for conduct for the town otherwise considered unacceptable, regardless of whether conduct satisfies the definition set forth in this policy. So it goes through all of the different behaviors and actions that are harassment or inappropriate. There is a lot more that the town can do to dictate the behavior of employees than it can do of public officials because they're elected or appointed. But we think that it's important to make sure everyone understands what is expected of people, because if you are clear on your expectations, it's a lot easier for people to meet them, and they can't say they didn't know what was expected. It also lays out the complaint process and how that is handled for any situations. There are 2 designated people that will serve as grievance officers / employment opportunity officers for this policy. So it leaves it so that if one of those people is the one being accused of any of these actions, there's another person to turn to. You know, we already had some of this information in our employee handbook that's distributed to all of our employees. And technically speaking, some of the elected officials are still town employees as well because they do receive paychecks. But this just makes sure that everyone understands what we're expecting and having everything clear across the board.
Any questions on the policy? Are we ready? We'll send this also to, okay, so this doesn't need to be sent to town meeting.
This just needs to be adopted by the Board of Selectmen as the governing body of the town in this. It's not, the Code of Ethics is an ordinance. This is a policy. So it just needs approval by this board.
Again, I think it's important to call out because of social media these days, the actions of elected or appointed officials and commentary on such, such mediums, basically, is there, can you speak to that as far as the work that was done on that exactly?
So in the second paragraph, it specifically calls out, I'll just read the whole paragraph. For purposes of this policy, the terms workplace and public meeting environments included employees or a public official's immediate or assigned work area or meeting area, whether or not this is specifically located on town property. All town property, including, for example, buildings, grounds, vehicles, and parking areas, off-duty conduct areas or location when off-duty conduct spills over into the work or meeting environment, such as posting threatening or discriminatory statements about coworkers or public officials on social media.
Okay. Okay.
On page 5, there's, well, I say 4 and 5 are discussions of verbal bullying and other forms of bullying. I think everything is covered in there as far as the situations that you're talking about. But if you want us to add things, we can.
Well, I guess I wasn't thinking about bullying as much as I was thinking about sometimes misinformation that's posted, but I'm not sure that that's covered under here or can be covered under here, which often ends up creating bigger problems for the town. I don't know if there's, a way to ask that information if shared, if you're in a position of whether it's staff or appointed or elected, that you're duly careful to make sure you're reporting accurately. I don't know.
Mike, I think being that these are living documents and that they can be updated from time to time, then I think that going with what we have now, there's a lot of work been put into it. I think that just to get something in place makes sense. And then as we go, if changes need to be better described, or we can do that if we can, if we have to.
Yeah, I also think if you look at page 4, where it talks about the definition of inappropriate behavior, 2 of the items are criticizing or talking down to others in front of a group and gossiping or spreading rumors. So I think a lot of the false information that we do see quite a bit of on No Stow Unfiltered falls under that heading. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really important because it's so important that our elected and appointed officials and staff especially, are not spreading information that's not correct. It really is hurtful to the town and it creates bigger problems for leadership and everyone really. So great. Well, I think you guys did a great job. So is there a motion to approve the discriminatory, harassment, workplace violence, and inappropriate behavior policy?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up is the Selectmen's Capital. I got to take a 2-minute break for a second. I'll be right back. Give me a minute. We can look at those.
Seems like being at the State House. You just got to walk out. Cheryl, how come you gave it for us? You could just watch this on, you could just watch this.
Right, but I think they were. It's my understanding that maybe it's not here. I can just watch it on, but I'm not sure.
I guess being here in person, you get to get the flavor of how it all works, but
Correct.
at least you go back and you do it.
Well, and to be honest with you, I was telling Liz and Christine that it's extremely helpful to be able to go back and listen because, for example, I couldn't hear some of the people speaking, especially with the masks on. I have a little bit of a hearing deficit to begin with, and so I could hear better with the earplugs in my ears. Listening at my desk and noise.
That makes sense.
But really get used to the idea of what goes on.
Yeah, the surroundings.
Surroundings.
Oh, God. I gotta bring a sweatshirt. It is a little chilly in here. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So we had the Selectmen 5-year capital plan, and we left this on here to see if the Selectmen wanted to add anything. I did get an email today about something that we may want to talk about, which I literally just got like 2 hours ago, which Christine doesn't even know about because I just got it. The ACO had mentioned to me that her vehicle is going to need she thinks some substantial work, and she was asking about getting a new vehicle. If you remember, she drove an old van for a while. We actually gave her the old Chief's car. I think she's been driving that for about 3 or 4 years right now. Okay, maybe 3 years. So I don't know if we wanted to budget for a different vehicle for her in this capital plan. I'm just bringing this up now because it was just brought to my attention. It just happens to be on the agenda. We can certainly leave this for another meeting, I think. Can we? Or we can defer it to the capital improvement work group. But the main reason for this Selectmen's capital is, do we have anything we want to change with what's here? You're happy with it?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Nita, did you have any changes or suggestions? No. You good? Okay. Okay, so I would just suggest that we do defer that topic to the capital improvement work group about her vehicle if we need to make it in addition to the fleet. I'll respond to her and let her know that that's what we're going to do. When are they meeting?
Well, so now that you all have finished this piece, then we'll schedule the first meeting for the capital improvement work group. If you can ask the ACO if she has an estimate, because I need estimates.
She sent me something.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I can forward it to you. I don't know what she sent is what we would end up getting. So I'll talk to her a little more about it. Okay. Okay, moving on. 298 Northwesterly Road update. So at our last meeting, we discussed a couple things as it relates to the building. We talked about the fact that we knew that the library was going to be planning their own renovation plan, and that should we have a discussion with them about the possibility of combining efforts, knowing that they're probably going to come to the town looking for money for what they're doing. I did meet with the library. I did have a really good discussion with the president and the executive director over there. And they were going to go back to their board to talk about the idea with their board about did they want to come forward in some sort of combined effort looking for funding for the buildings. With that being said, I think there was agreement from our board that it's really hard for people to see a vision without seeing it. And so I had gotten a price on getting some renderings done, like some pretty substantial renderings for a couple of different options with regards to this building. And just to refresh those who were paying attention, we talked about an idea of possibly moving recreation over here to the middle school side, a portion of the middle school side, that thereby leaving the old recreation center, the old firehouse, available to rent for some other purpose because there's no deed restrictions on it. We also talked about the demolition of one or both wings and having some park type setting for the village area over here, which I think was very attractive to a lot of people when we had a conference about that several months ago. And I think there's possibility for grant funds to be out there possibly for something like that. We weren't able to get the grant through Joe Courtney's office that we had applied for, but there might be other things that could come up. So, but all that being said, it's I brought forward this proposal for these renderings because I think we would need them. I am trying to see if we can possibly get this to town meeting in the next couple of months, but there isn't necessarily a rush to do that. If you want to wait, the only rush I was thinking about was the costs that continue to be associated with the buildings. So if we have direction from the town, we might be able to cut our costs associated with some of these buildings or make some changes that would help the town to save money if we were able to arrive at a solution sooner than later. So the proposal you have for the renderings is before you. I don't know if you want to try to move something like that forward or you want to move in some other direction, but I think we need a picture for people to see of what we're thinking about, and we need somebody qualified to put it together, do the modeling. It's pretty extensive work that we need to do. Thoughts?
So I am totally in favor of renderings, though not at this time, and I'll tell you why. I know you met with the library. They have not met yet, and we have not heard back from the library on what their decision is. You've got concepts 1, 2, and 3. There might be concepts 4, 5, and 6. So I'm thinking that rather than putting the cart before the horse, I'd rather have an answer from the library on how they perceived your meeting went with Kate and Amy, and then I think the meeting tomorrow night. Once we get that feedback from them, we'll have a better idea of what concepts we want to have drawn, and then we can go to town. I think when we go to town meeting on this, or community conversation, whichever way we go, I think we're going to have pictures and drawings, and so people can visualize what the end game is here and what we want it to look like or what the town wants it to look like. So I just don't think we're ready to make a contract with Rusty at this time for this amount of money, thinking there may be other ideas coming back from the library.
Yeah, I don't know if the library's discussion is going to actually influence any of these renderings much. I mean, maybe a little bit based on what they're going to do, but I think the only reason, at least in my mind, and maybe there was other reasons that I wasn't aware of, but to talk with the library was that they're going to look for funding. And in order for us to do anything with these buildings, we are going to need funding. So it seemed to make sense to possibly combine efforts because it's one property. But whatever they're going to do isn't going to change. I don't think it's going to change what we're going to get for renderings. And we could certainly, if they're meeting as soon as tomorrow night, if we wanted to have a special meeting to take this up, we could. What I was trying to do was, and again, this doesn't have to happen, but I was trying to get the renderings soon. So that way if we have them, we could possibly try to go to a town meeting sooner than later, like before we get into the dead of winter. And, while we're all still here, I was thinking we might be able to get forward with that, but.
So I'm thinking with the new Board of Selectmen coming in 5 weeks, our term ends in 5 weeks. I don't want to rush to judgment on this and force feed something through that quickly. I think that this is going to need a lot more discussion. I think there could be, again, concepts 4, 5, and 6. Right now we have concepts 1, 2, and 3. I think this is going to need more discussion. And I think that I don't want to fast forward anything that's this big and long lasting and financial obligation to the town in a quick fashion. So my opinion.
So I'm concerned that if we don't try to move things forward a little more expeditiously, the town is going to be on the hook for a large amount of expenses again this winter. And I think that was the hope, was to try to not have that be the case. So if we don't do something with this and try to move this forward kind of expeditiously, I'm fearful that we will go through another winter with all the expenses at the building again.
I understand concerns, but I still think we shouldn't rush through it.
I don't know if it's a rush. So I've brought forward a proposal for renderings. I mean, I'm open to waiting till if you think it'll help after the library, but meets. I mean, I don't know that I don't think it's helpful to wait 5 weeks, to wait on the town's business 5 weeks.
I'm not saying that's the case, but I think getting the answer back from the library, then meeting at our next regularly scheduled board of selectmen meeting to have further discussions on what the library's answer was to your proposals, then we can then rediscuss what kind of renderings we want to have. It might clear up the general conceptions that you have here in conceptions 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not closed-minded to waiting one more meeting if we have some solution. I think we can still possibly work within a time constraint. So I will check with the architect to see if they can adjust their schedule by 2 weeks. Because we aren't going to make a decision for 2 weeks, at least. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Any other concerns, questions? Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. Next up, calling for a town appointments. Oh, no, call for a town meeting. So we have a couple of items that we've discussed that need to go to town meeting. So I'm going to read a proposed call for a town meeting, which I just received back. Warning is hereby given to the electors and those entitled to vote at town meetings at the town of North Stonington that a special town meeting shall be held at the following location at the date and time indicated for the purposes of transacting the business set forth below. North Stonington Education Media Center via Zoom with the webinar ID, the date of October 5th, which would be 7 p.m. It's a Tuesday evening. For the purpose of verifying registered voters, those wishing to attend the meeting online and vote online would need to pre-register through the link provided by noon on October 5th. In-person attendance will be available following COVID-19 guidelines. Question 1, shall the town approve an additional appropriation in the amount of $60,325 for financial software as recommended by the Board of Finance? Question 2, shall the town approve an additional appropriation in the amount of $48,881 for the use of reimbursable state LoCIP grant funds for road work as recommended by the Board of Finance? Question 3, shall the town approve the amended 5-year local capital improvement plan as presented for fiscal years 2022 to 2026? Question 4, shall the town approve the North Stonington Code of Ethics ordinance to establish suitable ethical standards for all such officials, officers, and employees by prohibiting acts related to financial gain or financial interests that are not in the best interest of the town, and for the town clerk to be allowed to publish an abbreviated version of the legal ad regarding the notice of passage of the ordinance? All supporting documentation will be available on the town website at northstoningtonct.gov. Again, these 4 items are items that we've already approved and we had been waiting to go to town meeting. So this is the suggestion.
Did you have copies of that?
Yeah, we have, you're all going to sign it, but you can take a look at it.
Oh.
If you agree.
You don't get a copy.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, you just want me to sign it?
Oh, you can.
You don't have to sign it tonight.
You don't have to sign it tonight. No, but you can have that. Have it.
Oh.
It's for you. It's for you. You can have it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you approve? Do you want to move forward with the town meeting?
Yes, I think I motion we approve the call for town meeting as presented.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Another town meeting. All right. Appointments. We did get an email from William Ricker, Chairman of the Conservation Commission, asking for reappointment of Stephen Colgan, term expired last year, and Doug Farrand to 5-year terms. We inadvertently missed their reappointments, and Jason Mancini for a 5-year term as well. Is there any opposition to these reappointments?
No, I would make a motion that we approve the reappointments as suggested by Mr. Ricker, the Chairman of the Conservation Committee.
Second.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I have nothing to report under selectmen's expenses. Minutes, we have none tonight.
Yes.
We have, I make a motion that we approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes for September 14, 2021 at 5:15 PM as submitted by Christine.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
It was only for the executive session.
Yep, that's good. Further discussion? All is in favor?
Aye.
Is there any public comment on agenda items? Can you step up to the microphone, please?
Carl Johnston again. As far as the building, which is an agenda item, just close down portions of the building. Mothball the ends of the building. You should be able to separate it. I know you have an issue that you say you can't, but I believe if you get the right people, you can separate that in, separate all that down that way. You use this part of the building. This is where your cost is coming from to begin with. It's not them two ends that are sucking up any big amount. And then I have one other comment, but it's not, I don't think it's an agenda item. It's got to do with your paperwork that you used to send us on your meetings. So we all know what you guys are discussing up there. It stopped coming in the emails. So when you guys are talking that you've already, his packet, you saw to his packet, I don't know what packet you're talking about. I mean, I don't know the information to even know whether I should come and ask you questions or should I just stay home here on track. So I don't know if that's something we can straighten out.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments, Carl. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
No, we have 2 online comments.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot about the online folks. Yes, come on down.
Okay, Brett, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening, Brett Mastriani, Chairman of Economic Development Commission. I have to say, I'm really disappointed that you guys did not discuss more of our proposal tonight. Mike, unfortunately, gives the appearance of to be politically motivated agenda, as Donnie Hill was able to speak tonight regarding the truck. Members of KINSA were able to speak regarding their request for funds. The Cultural Coalition was able to receive funds with no details in what they were doing with those funds or the process that they had for the same amount of funds. I sent you the packet on Friday. Today's Tuesday. I did not receive a response. I did not receive any questions that you may have that I would have been able to answer yesterday or today, when actually today I was at town hall and I didn't see you there. Otherwise, I would have came in to speak to you to make sure this was moving forward. EDC held a special meeting to get this to you guys in time for this meeting. It's very unfortunate that you would put politics in front of helping the businesses of our town and show the equality amongst all the requests on the agenda tonight.
But I don't know anything about politics. I mean, I'm not running for any office. So I will say that last meeting, we were very clear that you needed to follow up with the administration office. You sent us the information and you didn't send it to even the administrative finance office. You sent it to just to the 3 selectmen. She was unaware that it even came in until I noticed that she wasn't CC'd, even though it was very clear. We said it in the last meeting. You can go and review the recordings that we had unanswered questions that needed to be vetted out. I've set forth what needs to happen in order for us to move business forward. This isn't a secret. We put it on the table at the meeting, so it's very clear.
Yep,
I'm very appreciative to what economic development has done. I'm very appreciative, very thankful. And I'm actually happy to have a special meeting after you just simply do what needs to be done for us to move something like this forward. So if you can connect with Christine tomorrow, she will talk with Susan, she will talk with the auditor. I am more than happy to ask the selectmen to have a special meeting. But when you're sending information at the last second, which is what you have been doing every single time, even though I've been very clear about what the timeframes are in which we need things, I'm held to this standard because the people hold us to this standard. So we're just trying to do our best.
Mike, you might get the last word. meeting with sector, having our EDC
Brett,
meeting
you're-
and getting
Brett,
it to
your
you
mic-
at 3 o'clock.
Brett, you cut out. So if you could start over, that would be helpful.
I understand your comments. I disagree with them wholeheartedly, but I will be in to see Christine in the morning. And I hope that you can convene a meeting by the end of this week as a special meeting, because the businesses that are affected need this. And that's why we're working hard. And that was the reason these funds are put out by the federal government, is to help those affected and not get held up by the process. And like I said, we worked with sector. So your questions that you had regarding this application could have been easily answered during that segment, but you chose not to, but you allowed others. That's my point. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
Joe Gross, go ahead and unmute.
Thank you. I wish you'd have put me on before though. Christine, if I stop down sometime tomorrow, can you answer the questions I have on here?
Yes, come see me in the afternoon, Joe.
Okay. And then Mike, my comment is very simple. I don't know about the other people, but whenever I give something and comment on something, and I'm sincere in what I say, the village and the professional advice that we receive regarding lowering the stop signs and using our resident troopers to provide tickets and that would provide something. That's immediate safety for them. But when I receive, thank you for the comment, I don't know whether you've gone discussing it anymore with the rest of the, the selectmen, or that's it. It just stops right there. So that's just my feeling. I feel when somebody says, I thank you for the comments. What have you done? Have you done any more discussion with this during the week, or just said to hell with it?
I'm not 100% not following what you're saying, Joe, but all I can tell you is we are constantly working on things every single day during the week. I mean, we try to do everything that involves selectmen decisions. We have to do those in open meetings, so we do that. But if there's things that I can do during the week, which is an extensive amount of work, I try to do that.
My concern, basically, what I'm saying is, I don't know whether you talked with the resident troopers or Donnie or anybody dropping the speed limit and seeing if that worked to help the people in the village, which is at no cost to us, or just, we're not going to try that. We're just going to continue on with the speed hump. That's what I mean. I don't know which way we're going.
Oh, I can. Yeah, tonight, Joe, tonight we are moving forward with the speed humps. That was already decided, and there was nothing said tonight that changed our direction, so they will be installed. I'm also not closed-minded to talking about reducing the speed limit, but maybe we can talk about that at the next meeting.
I just thought it would be something that we could do to help it until the decision was reached to put the speed humps in. Yeah, that's my concern. That's all I have. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, phone number ending in 3754. Go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, this is Sean. I just want to say I think that it's bad policy to consider capital items for additional appropriation instead of handling them during the budget process. It depletes our general fund, and we should be holding out the excess balance in our general fund to take down the middle school wing that we all know needs to happen. Thank you.
I would encourage you to bring that comment to the Board of Finance. We were directed to do that. Thank you for your comment. Motion to adjourn. Second, further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to come to the meeting tonight.